This truly is an honor, so thank you so much, and thank you, Dr. Archer, for being patient with me as well as far as trying to coordinate this. As many of you know, Staples is acquiring Office Depot OfficeMax, pending FTC approval. So with that, I had limitations on speaking, and just it really did have an impact on schedule. So I'm so happy to be here today, and so happy that we're almost to the final decision on that Staples acquisition. The deadline for it, many ask me, is May 16th. So we are very, very close. I love CRE. That's the reason why I'm here. I believe very strongly that if you don't really have a true interest in what you're doing, then it's going to be very difficult for you to be successful. You have to have that passion to want to really put that extra effort and succeed in your career. CRE, commercial real estate, I'd say probably the last 5 years have really gotten into social media. Before that, I never used this acronym. To me, it didn't really mean anything. I was always talking retail real estate. But CRE, I'll be using it throughout the talk today, is really the acronym I mainly tweet about, mainly talk about, is commercial real estate, CRE. Last week, in preparing for this talk, I had the pleasure of hearing Jade Simmons. She is a professional speaker. I am not. And she really just had a couple things that really resonated with me. And one of them was to make a mind shift of, instead of wanting to impress someone, wanting to impact them positively with what you say or what you do. And that's really what I'm hoping to today, especially being so close to the end of some of your, before you graduate. I really hope that you take some true value out of just hearing some tidbits from me today, that you're able to then go forward in your career. Is Luke here? Luke? Oh, hi Luke. Thank you very much. He was one of the people that sent me questions, and one of the questions was, how did I get into commercial real estate? And I was very fortunate. I grew up in Jupiter, Florida, and dating myself, but it was before Abacoa was planned. It was just in pre-planning phases, and it was going to basically double the size of my town. And it really started asking the question of, what does that mean? What does that mean for our community? And also, being a high schooler, I enjoyed going shopping. What was this supposed to be, this neo-traditional design that I could actually walk to go and buy things, to go shopping? And so that really was the start of my interest in retail real estate, and very thankful for that. Abacoa is a beautiful place now. I know we've talked about Abacoa as well. And it really did. It started my career focus. My principal at Jupiter High School started a program when I was a senior. I was very fortunate on that timing, where it was an unpaid internship. It was a certain amount of students were selected to do an unpaid internship. So he asked me, what do you have interest in? I said, well, what is this Abacoa thing? How can I do that? And so he was mentioning maybe like an urban land planning type of internship. Well, my father, a mechanical engineer, had raised me to believe that there was no other degree to get but an engineering degree. So that's how I became focused on civil engineering. Was the closest thing I could get engineering-wise to urban land planning. And so with that really, I have told multiple students that to do an unpaid internship, yes, we would all prefer to get paid, but it was that unpaid internship that then led to an internship, which then led to me being, working for them full-time after graduation. All right, Tostitos Fiesta Bowl. I'm going to jump right into it from a retail perspective. Also with my true retail interest, I jumped to the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl because it reminds me of this a lot. I was so upset after the '96 national championship loss in the Fiesta Bowl that I said, forget it, I'm never eating Tostitos again. That's it. And it didn't take me too long of missing Tostitos that I decided me not eating Tostitos was not going to make the Gators win. That was not going to have an impact. I very much believe one person can have a huge impact, but this was not the case. I felt the same way with e-commerce. Here I am in retail real estate. I'm working for such a great company with Office Depot. Why would I use e-commerce? Even though we Office Depot have a very strong website, my business is retail real estate, the actual store level. I'm doing the leases. So I felt like me buying online was going against my career, going against what I did. Well, fast forward, have 2 beautiful twin boys, and as a parent, very quickly realized how important my time was. And with that, got sold on Amazon. So subscribe and save, especially their mom program, 20% off. It was like, how could I not? I got diapers delivered to the door as a working parent. Beautiful. So I was hooked. All right, well, how is that then impacting my love for retail real estate? Well, I'm today wearing a Rent the Runway dress. I have become a fan of Rent the Runway as an example of just how much retail is changing. I'm wearing this dress today, I'm returning it tomorrow. It's purely a new world of retail real estate, and just me avoiding it or anyone avoiding it isn't going to solve the problem. We have to actually look at where the trends are heading. So the quality of these might not be great, but this is from an e-commerce conference that was held just this week in Las Vegas. And so just the next couple slides just kind of showing you just right now today what's going on with e-com. Without any question, digital is disrupting all industries, especially retail. We talk about emergence of social commerce. I'm a big user of social commerce. The lipstick I have on right now was because a friend recommended it via Twitter. You know, it's impacting us all the time. Retail standards are rising. If I'm ordering something online for click and collect, I want it there, I want it easy. I don't want there to be any delay, otherwise why did I do it? I love the mobile app for Starbucks. I know I talked about it at the Trends Conference of how that can impact our commercial real estate industry. And I think about it, it's like this morning, the mobile app, talk about an amazing experience. I press a button, I walk into my store, they greet me by name, they hand me my coffee, and I'm out the door in seconds. And so that's when I have that great of an experience, I'm now expecting that elsewhere. So this was just a tweet yesterday as well. So Amazon Prime, they're calling it the greatest marketing campaign ever. Just with the amount of membership, I mean, just see the growth. It's quite remarkable, and it was started as a test. And I spoke at South by Southwest recently with this Brian Eisenberg, who studies Amazon, and he was just talking about how much they continuously are testing, and how testing really isn't a test if you don't allow it to fail, and just how much they're doing to test and test. Amazon was the fastest company ever to hit 100 billion. They just announced this quarter. As well as our Amazon Web Services is on a faster pace and just hit 10 billion in sales. Has anyone used Prime now? Wow, and you guys aren't even within this bubble. Like, do they have it in Gainesville? Or you're just saying from your homes?
That would get student discount as well.
Yeah? Wow. Oh, I'm sorry, Prime Now. Yeah, Amazon Prime Now, where they'll deliver you within 2 hours. So yeah, like they're just, so Gainesville is just outside of this bubble. But in Fort Lauderdale, they just started it 2 months ago in Raleigh, and I mean, it's amazing. You sit there, I ordered groceries. I was able, just like my Uber driver, I was able to look and see my groceries. I was a little too addicted to it, like watching the guy refresh, where is he with my groceries? I was traveling the next day and needed milk for my sons, and it got delivered. Just remarkable. And that's not cheap, but it's something that they're doing clearly right now as a loss leader. But just wanted to just give those examples. Actually, to jump back real quick from that speech, this is the CEO of Channel Advisor that was given this speech this week. And one of the things that really stuck out to me from people that were tweeting from the event was 43% of retailers believe that digital disruption is not a thing. And like that is not going to impact their business. And I just was going, which retailers are those? Because those obviously are not going to survive. I mentioned South by Southwest, interactive. You guys familiar with South by Southwest? It's an interactive conference. It started actually as a music festival and just still has the music and film, but it's really also has grown into an interactive. And one of my favorite sessions that I was able to attend was from a gentleman that started a company called The Lab, and is focused on these really mixed use, but it's going back to the old days of public markets. So I kind of see like we're going a full circle. Going back to milk being delivered to your house in jugs, and that you want to be in a market with your community. And the design elements that he's incorporating are just beautiful, all focused on natural, local, very organic, and it's all small shop spaces and restaurants that all feed into the same central corridor. Any of you from Atlanta have probably been to some of the public markets there. He was just an incredible speaker, and two things. He had said a couple things that kind of got under my skin, because I think I was the only person there from the shopping center industry. And he was up there talking about these as like this was something new. So his design element is something new. The focus is it's excellent. I mean, beautiful design. His projects are very successful. But this isn't new. Like, this is going back to public market days. And it's also, they're dealing with the same things of all shopping centers are: common area maintenance, concerns about who's taking care of what. Like, he was going through all of the troubles that they've gone through. It's all the same thing that we currently deal with in the shopping center industry every day. I really appreciated the new, fresh look and any new, fresh design, but it's nothing new. It's just something that shopping centers have to evolve in. And I really feel like you guys are entering into whatever field you choose to at a really exciting time of, really saying, which direction is this going? And one of the other things from South by that was really just, I attended many sessions, and one of the things that just kept coming back over and over again was this idea of hybrid companies. So that retailers are acting as media companies, and media companies are acting as retailers. I'm not a Facebook user because I only have so much hours of the day and I focus my time on Twitter. But there was a stat that Facebook users, half of them do, and probably a majority of you in the room are Facebook members, that go to the site to actually look for research or go to brands. Like, half of the users are going there for products. So Facebook is becoming more of a retailer. They just announced their bot program with Messenger, so you can purchase things with Spring this week. Like, it's moving that way, so the hybrid company. So I ask you from a commercial real estate perspective to think about that as well, as far as hybrid companies. I feel like right now retailers, Office Depot, one of them, we keep our data, how many sales we have, how many customers are coming through our door, what our customers are. We keep that for Office Depot's use. The shopping center owners, they've got traffic data, they've got demographic data, but they're keeping that for their use. And this is going to be a big trend, I hope, that we're able to share, because in order for our retail locations to be successful, we're going to have to work together to create this experience that I want to go to, that you want to go to. And it doesn't have to be this is very cool, but it doesn't have to be this. It can be an improvement to our local shopping centers. And I think that's going to be more of the hybrid. I think of it from office as well. And another conference I attended where there was a raise of hands of questions regarding amenities. So of course everyone wanted a rooftop in their office. That'd be super cool, right? And it'd be nice to have a gym. But one of the other leading items that people would like to see in their big office building is co-working space. And it really makes a lot of sense. Have a place within your building that you could also co-work with other companies and share ideas, share clients, just allow for more of a common space to do that over and above the WeWorks of the world. So I thought that was interesting. All right, this question came from Carrie. I'm going to embarrass you later, but no. Whoa! Oh my gosh, so sorry. I thought I had a longer chain than that. I'm sure this kind of jumps off the board. I love my company. I love Office Depot OfficeMax now, and they've been an incredible company to work for. But you see, if you own this shopping center, do you have some questions? How long do you want to own this property for? Yeah, so the property owner, this is in, it's a Treasure Coast Mall. This is in Jensen Beach, just north of Stewart. And 2 miles north of this OfficeMax is Staples. 2 miles south of it is an Office Depot. This OfficeMax sitting in between with the co-tenancy of Sports Authority. We know what happened to Sports Authority news just recently, and a big question mark on what's going to happen long term with Barnes & Noble. So this landlord trying to extend this lease for us for another year, but ultimately is looking to sell this property to someone that wants to look at what can future be done with it. We're willing. We could look at downsize and potentially partner up with Barnes & Noble or Sports Authority, and who knows what the future holds. But it does lend the question, right? So Carrie asked the question of, okay, what the last downturn, how did it impact your business? And I would say this is the number one thing that it impacted my business I've seen is co-tenancy clauses. So this actually has a co-tenancy clause. If one of these tenants does go out, we get a reduced rent. This is older lease. Today, when I'm negotiating new leases or I'm negotiating a lease amendment, this is probably the number one thing I get pushback on. And I'm sure my fellow board members that have spoken earlier that will share that is it's a difficult negotiation. So from a new ground up shopping center today, it's definitely a concern, and it all goes down to leverage. How much do the retailer want to be there, and how much does the landlord want Office Depot OfficeMax there? But it's probably the biggest change I saw right after the recession was no way are we giving you a co-tenancy clause. We had many centers where we went to half rent when linens and things in Circuit went out. And there's some today that we're still sitting on 50% rent because of that, where we're sitting with vacant boxes. All right, I'm going to feel like, oh, yes. Please. That's a great question. Does everyone hear the question as far as how does the rent reduce in a situation where you have a co-tenancy violation? It is generally two different ways. One is either a strict 50% rent, you just go to 50% rent, or the other one is, I've got a couple words like 1%, 2% of sales. Yes?
So there's Office Depot and Staples within like a 2 mile radius of this?
Yeah, there's
Why would you look at extending this lease if you just, wouldn't all three of those just cannibalize all the other sales?
Yes.
I would think you would be disposing of some of these, right?
We are. As far as when there's a direct overlap, so the depot that I mentioned is on the south side of the river there, so they do trade differently. And so we could maintain this store potentially. And then it goes into the whole question of, does the Staples get closed? Does it proceed? So that's why we did a 1-year extension here in order to give us time to really make those longer term strategy decisions. Yeah. Awesome. Any other questions? Love it. Yeah.
For Barnes & Noble, are you still seeing a lot of risk for them? They seem to kind of stabilize at this point where the number of bookstores is a lot higher than it really needed to be once Amazon became a thing.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of bookstores have been opening, but for co-tenancy clauses, is there still a lot of risk associated with Barnes & Noble, or are people getting more comfortable with it?
Right. I would say they're much more stable than the other side of the center here, but it is still a question mark of how are they growing their business, and more than that, it's covered up here. But more than that, I think more than the viability, it's more of the size. So, for instance, Office Depot, the majority, when you take the average of our store, we're at 25,000 square feet. Our prototype today is 15,000. Our competitor Staples prototype is 12,000. So it's obviously moving in that direction. So the question, Sports Authority, do they need 45,000? No, that's a really large store for them. So Barnes & Noble, same question. What's their ultimate size that they're going to continue on with their new prototype? So, relationships, I'm going to feel like a little bit like Andy Cohen here. this is going to be the word that I continue. If we were a little later in the day and we could do a drinking game, this would be the word I'm going to keep repeating now, is relationships. So I mentioned I'm here today because of my love for commercial real estate, but also mainly from relationships. It was Jim Freed at an International Council of Shopping Centers, the main industry event for ICSC for retail real estate. And Jim came up to me, and I had a Gator emblem on my jacket. I think we had just won some big game, and he's like, "I didn't know you were a Gator," and he got all excited. He's like, "You have to join the Bergstrom Center," and so it was just, of course, I love Gators, I love UF, I would love to be involved, and so, but it was that relationship through meeting Jim that really became involved with the center. Obviously, the students I've been able to meet through the years, and then the relationships and the bonds with the fellow board members, and that it's just, Rachel Ween, it's actually her birthday today. Happy birthday to Rachel. She has become a dear, dear friend through the board, and as well, we were just talking this week about retail strategy, and she was throwing off just some ideas to me of a client that she was trying to pitch, and we were just bouncing ideas off it. So we have that business relationship, and then the personal. She got to visit me when my boys were first born. So I mean, it's just that it's incredible, the relationship. Gentleman standing next to me is my top broker, Jim Kovacs. He's out of Colliers in Tampa, and just besides when we first started with Depot, your relationship with brokers, and brokers can just be a superstar, make you look like a superstar with the work that they're doing. So I was working so hard. I wanted to bring in the most deals for my team. I wanted to lead my team in Office Depot, and it's the work that Jim and his team did that allowed me to do that. Same thing, I now know Jim for almost 10 years, and he's become a close personal friend as well. And it's just, it really is. I think it's one of my favorite parts of this business is that, yes, I'm sitting behind a computer a lot of the day, but I'm also get to go out and meet people and tour real estate, which is another fun thing. This is a company called The Broker List, and they ran what they called the DNA of CRE. And just really, it was a bunch of numbers. And the whole reason I was showing all these numbers is the relationships, 71% of respondents. So it was like a long report, all kinds of numbers. And then by far, the only percentage that went way over the board was relationships. And relationships was the reason that people felt that they won business. And I know we talked about that a lot of trends, and other people have talked with you about that too, but it is true, so true in this industry. With relationship being such a big part of our business, I do feel it's worth a discussion on social. I know we've got the Bergstrom Center golf tournament, and that's an amazing way to make those connections. And Mrs. Sarah Malcolm on Twitter, she actually spoke at the UF Retail Conference and also has become a friend through the years. And she gave the great analogy that Twitter, Facebook, social, for career usage is that golf. It's like a modern golf, as far as, and for someone like me that doesn't play golf, it does. It gives me another outlet. More than 90% are on LinkedIn. I've found that over and over again. CRE is growing on Twitter, but it is at a smaller margin. I would say it's almost like 15%. This is one of my prized possessions. Gator helmet signed by Mr. Emmett Smith, and I love it. And I mention it because when I first started on Twitter, I followed purely like news sources, and probably the first person I followed was Emmett. Because not only obviously a Gator legend, but also doing great things in commercial real estate. So I thought, oh, this is perfect. And through the years, I've really changed how I use Twitter. It was purely a news source, and now I've really seen the impact of being truly social on it versus just retweeting. Mind you, I retweet probably too much, but I share parts of my life on Twitter. And just last week saw how much just me sharing little bits of my life are being picked up on. So a gentleman by the name, a broker out of Charlotte, North Carolina, Stephen Farr, he reached out to me and said, hey, and I've known Stephen, we did a couple deals for Office Depot, but years ago. And he reached out to me and said, hey, I just saw that you were tweeting about South by Southwest, retail tech. You're gonna love this man. You've gotta meet David Campbell. He's the Boxman Studio CEO. And so just from him reading my tweets, he knew of what was a true interest of mine and set up this lunch meeting. And I was just blown away because of him taking that amount of time to say, hey, you're gonna really enjoy meeting this person. And it really was. It was an excellent meeting, and we're going to continue to stay in touch and hopefully do some deals together. And from it, I didn't even know his company, Boxman, had done this Office Depot. You could tell it was actually a green conference years ago that his company did this for. But I love the Florida, Georgia. I love this. But his company does on-demand retail. It's just so cool. So it's a different version of a pop-up shop. It's actually a shipping container that's modified. Put all your products, do all your design, put it on the back of a truck, ship it out. He had multiple ones at that conference I was mentioning in South by Southwest out in Austin. And then once it's done, pick it up and ship it back. So and then he either stores it or he moves it to the next location. Kind of also real quick talk on one of my favorite people on Twitter, Barbie Reuter. Not only is she leading her company, that brokerage company based out of Arizona, but she also is a leader in commercial real estate women crew. And I love her account because she talks the same about her life and about what she's doing in the industry. And she shared a quote as far as that her company really has seen. The big question is, what's your return on investment for all this time and effort? But she did say that her company is directly seeing an increase in their business due to their social efforts, their blogging. And then just leads into a good segue also into CRE tech. So, data really is underlying CRE decisions. And so that's really, I love this. This was Alex Markson. He's the CEO of a CRE tech startup called Property Capsule. And he put this quote up, and the equation, CRE equals data plus smart people minus technology. And we're changing that for sure, and it has to evolve, but it really said, whoa, we really have to pay more attention to this. So again, through Twitter, I got invited to attend an event in New York that was it was excellent. It was called CRE Tech Intersect, and there was a portion of it that was sponsored by ULI, and also a portion of it that was sponsored by ICSC. I put these up here just as far as if you do have the interest. Those top 4 are all industry locations that are really focused on technology in our industry. This quick side story. So this gentleman sitting on the end here is Jared Kushner. He was one of the speakers and talking not only about his business with Kushner's company, but also that him and his brother are investing in technology such as Honest Buildings and Hightower as well. And this is a picture I took. I am literally sitting right in front of him. And does anyone know who Jared Kushner is married to? Ivanka Trump. So he could be known also as Mr. Ivanka Trump, and I'm not going to get political on you, but I was literally sitting right across from him. He gets up, goes to run out the room, and he stops me. I'm wearing this dress, and he says, hello, and I love your dress. I know who made it, by the way, and it's Ivanka Trump dress. And so I was the amount of her clothing line, like how large it is, and that he took the minute to notice that I was wearing his wife's designs, that he even knew his wife's designs, was just mind-boggling to me. It was as he's running a incredible commercial real estate company. But just in quick, these are some of my favorite people to follow on Twitter as well that I did have the opportunity, the relationships. Brandon Soldoff, he runs ULI tech initiatives, And then Colleen Clark, she's doing out of Chicago, she's doing some venture capital. And then Duke Long, David, I know we were talking about Duke Long. He drops F-bombs, he gets really cursed sometimes, but he just is, that's his whole point. He's trying to just stir us up. He had a blog post last week that got all kinds of people all like upset, but that was the point, to say that brokerage has to change and that we have to pay attention to the data and what's changing. So it was great. And I talked about this at the Trends Conference, so I don't want to repeat it. Does anyone have questions on site selection as far as the data impacting site selection? Interest? Yeah? Because I don't want to go through this in detail, but it was just how much it's changing. When I first started at Racetrack, literally I was doing site selection with a yellow piece of paper. We would mark down how many cars that we would go to the Department of Transportation, find out the average daily trips, and we would be marking that down with what property was available. I mean, to just switch that to now what's available, and being able to actually know where your exact customers are coming from by following their cell phones. I mean, it's night and day difference. Commercial real estate technology really is expanding. There's so much more room for improvement. I love the high-rise and, high tower, just the ability to better track your projects, and it's just making life simpler. Just to run through a couple of my favorites again, I added a new one, Rofty, because at the Trends Conference, they came up to me after the Trends speech and said, "Hey, we're a commercial real estate technology company, and we're grad students from UF." And so they're doing HVACs. I mean, it is by far one of the biggest contentions points in negotiating retail lease space when you're doing existing boxes, with HVAC being so expensive. It's one of the big things of, nope, landlord, you're paying for it. Nope, retailer, you're paying for it. It goes back and forth, back and forth. Rofty is allowing it to actually quantify, rather than, we don't know how old it is, we don't know how efficient it is. They're providing that information and then providing a maintenance plan and making it a more automated process. Again, CompStack, I feel like the idea of being able to trade your comps, it really is. It opens up a whole question. Real massive with being able to actually visually see changes in rental rates, and just everything that Real Massive is doing with keeping data open is really incredible. And then Floored as well, like to be able to view an office space in 3D, very cool. Hustle, something I wanted to talk about. It's just, you're in charge of your career. When you leave here, what are you going to do? And if there's a real interest that you have, if there's a real company that you really want to go after to work for, do it. How are you going to figure out how to do it? An example that I have from just last year, I mentioned ICSC. It's our biggest event is every year in May. It's called Recon. It's about 50,000 members go and attend it every year. And I really was seeing, the Office Depot, we've got a change coming. And I wanted to meet more of the influencers within retail real estate, within social media, within retail real estate. Well, so how do I do that? So I came up with this idea for sending out what I call Twitter bans to the top 25 influencers. So you can see it here, like Lutz tweets, Kristen Moore, she's with Brixmore, Mrs. Sarah Malcolm with ICSC, and I wasn't really sure what the feedback I would get from it, but it was so positive. I really did it with the idea of ICSC style. I was trying to promote that idea of, hey, we're the ones that are actually bringing the shops, we're doing the deals, we're putting all this effort to negotiate it, but we're not really talking about the wins enough of, hey, we did this all together, if this was a Regency Center. And what it turned out to be was it was more about, the relationships and who you meet from it. This is just going to challenge you on a couple of things here, and hopefully give you a couple things to think about and take away. I think our signs for commercial real estate are so boring. I mean, they all look the same. They all have a phone number. They all say for lease, for sale. If you own a center, or if you're now the property manager, or if you're the broker, I just challenge you to look at it differently. How do I know? Do I know if I can text these people? I have no idea. It just says, to call me, or just a phone number. So this is where I said I was going to embarrass you. But I just try to do something more creative. Yes, we don't have to do the residential. I'm not saying you have to put your face on it. But I look at at JM Augustyn, I look at it as my calling card. If I were to go in the brokerage world, you better believe I'm going to put it at JM Augustyn on my signs. I'm also going to, do something unique to that property. I mean, Butler Plaza. I mean, the name is known here, and it's known outside of Gainesville. To really be able to do something unique to the sign to speak to the customers, and Butler Plaza has a Facebook page, but how are they speaking to the potential customers and potential clients and for people in their property? It's just incredible what Butler Plaza is doing and the growth. The reason I bring up Butler Plaza is this. So I am very new to Snapchat, probably a month of trying to figure it out. I'm a little intimidated by it, but I'm still trying to figure it out. One of the things I absolutely love about it is the geo filters. And also how I can only use Snapchat if I actually have my location turned on, which is something that is also very interesting from a commercial real estate perspective of how we apply that data. So I love the geo filters and how you can, at Butler Plaza, Butler Plaza could buy a geo filter to then, if you're Snapchatting, and I'm hoping Twitter and others are going to add it, you could sit there and be advertising, hey, I'm at Butler Plaza, and really be building that community around it. I want to mention as far as just little things I can do. But I'm so grateful to be talking with you guys today. And I mentioned I've got my adorable identical twin boys, and so hopefully one day I'll be standing next to them at the school as well. But we always tell them they can go anywhere they want to go. But we of course would rather them go to Florida. We'll see. But please, any questions? I'm here to answer anything. Yes.
So I think disruption, especially in the retail world, is kind of a double-edged sword, because obviously we've got retailers like Amazon and Alibaba with just immensely lower operating costs. But there's also the disruption that we're seeing retail spaces built for local demands. Yeah. So you started out on the whole neo-traditional walkable spaces.
Yeah.
Do you think that's really where the only future is, or do you think that there's going to be a new contender for this big box, huge floor plan space?
Yeah, I feel like it's going to have to be modified, but you're right. I mean, our majority of our centers in America are that, where the Office Depots are today. They're in the local centers, they're in the power centers. It's going to be about making that space, modifying it. I mentioned Office Depot shrinking our prototype. Many retailers are, but then you've got retailers that are going the other way. Home Goods, as an example, I know Keith talks here frequently. I mean, the Home Goods, they're actually expanding their prototype of the Home Goods. But from your question as far as just the change, where I think that we're going to see change is Eden's, Jody McLean, CEO there. She spoke of just the the needing to focus on that local customer. And that's when I talked earlier, like I feel like the retailers and shopping center owners need to work better together of creating that experience inside, redoing the experience of just a plain boring shopping center and updating that to where your community wants to go. And so the owners can do that from the exterior, but then partner with the retailers of creating that experience inside the box that you still want to go to. I mean, it could look real pretty on the outside, but if you don't want to go in, like, what are you doing? Yeah. And I'll change the picture so you don't know. So you know.
So for new development
Yeah.
today, what are you looking for in a brand new site? Let's say a developer comes to you, you've got empty land and they want you in there. What are you as a retailer looking for the most if they can just build it from scratch?
I'm not seeing it. I'm really not. I'm not seeing new development. It's the majority of it is all repurposed space. I mean, there are, by all means, Costco is still growing. They're still doing they're still doing big box. Aldi is growing big time, and they're doing the new freestanding boxes for them. But I haven't done a new ground up deal since pre-recession. Yeah. Yes.
How big of a role does the actual negotiation play in what you do? You
Yeah.
do the analysis,
Yeah.
you make the decision, and then you have to sit down and negotiate. Do you actually do that? Do you have people that do that with you, and where does the execution of the deal actually come from?
Great. I was hoping someone would ask about that because it's such a huge part of our business, the negotiation. I would answer that as far as it's whoever has the better relationship. I do feel like a broken record, but showed my one of my top brokers with Jim Kovacs. If he's got an edge, like he works with other retailers, like if he's got more of an edge to work with the negotiation with a landlord, then he will. So, but I'd say more than half the time I'm doing the negotiations directly. I utilize my brokers to really provide the local knowledge to help me negotiate better. As far as when I was talking about comp stack with, what are those true comps? Hey, wait a second. If Ross just paid $10, why are you charging me $15? Like to be armed with that, that's critical. I love negotiation, so it's and I feel it's truly a skill that I didn't have that I've built throughout my career and continue to. It's something that you learn to read people, you learn to read the situation, you learn to be prepared. A negotiation class I went to. You just remember tidbits, can't remember it all, but one of the tidbits I really remember from this negotiation class was a publisher went to negotiate on his client, with the client was a sports figure, and really went to try to negotiate purely a book deal based on a sports figure. By making the publisher make the first offer versus him making the first offer, the publisher was actually threw out a much bigger number because they saw their sports figure as a motivational speaker, a motivational book that actually carried more sales with it. So they said, well, we're going to come back to the table. It really blew where they were looking at off the table. They would have ended up well below that. And so there's always all those tactics from a negotiation of, all right, you answer first. No, you answer first. It's a big part.
Well, on the topic of skills, what
Yeah.
other skills have you had to develop throughout your real estate career?
As site selection, I really, Racetrack was an incredible learning ground for site selection. I can't thank the owner of that company enough for the information he provided to me. Carl Balch Jr., he built, it's still a privately held company, Racetrack, excellent company, and he really loved real estate. He knew that convenience store, you can't have a convenience store if you don't have the best location. And he would just spend hours with us. He had a pretty large office. Our real estate team was pretty young, a lot of Georgia grads. And we would all sit in his office, and not only would we talk about negotiation skills, but we'd also talk about site selection of, and being on the going home side versus the coming there side, and just things you just don't forget from listening to a leader like that. It was visibility. I still to this day am driving down the street and go, oh, that's a bad racetrack site, or a great racetrack site, or oh, we could have done that different. Racetrack, it's all about the visibility and the convenience to get in and out, and next time you're going around a curve, racetracks like to be on the what we call the outside of the curve because you see it as you're driving for longer than if you're in the inside of the curve. So it's just, like little things like that you just learn in the industry. Yes?
Logistically, how hard is it for business to change a floor plan from, say, 25,000 square feet to 12,000 square feet?
Yeah, monumental. It's especially when we're sitting at 25,000 square feet. I said as a chain average. It's very difficult. These downsizes, it's very time consuming, and actually you were asking about new buildings. It's actually easier to do a new building because you say, here's our plan, build it towards this exact prototype, versus downsizing in place, and then who's going to take the space. And I'm working on multiple downsizes right now where it's all about frontage. We have to be at a 90 feet minimum frontage. Well, the next tenant coming in, we have to be at a 90 feet minimum frontage. And so then there's negotiations of, well, who's really going to pay? Who's the one that's going to pay more to be able to get the frontage they need? Yeah.
Following up on that, you mentioned 90-foot frontage. I was wondering if there was a new development. So,
yeah.
Say you're building one of these new models.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things where it's 90-foot frontage? What are the other kind of requirements
Yeah.
that you're seeing of changing retail, where you're trying to align your model to that?
Yeah.
What are the requirements that you guys have to have?
Yeah, I mean, the frontage really it's huge. So, I mean, the prototype box, 90 feet by 170 today, if we were building something new. We do have different prototypes, like there's a square and a narrow version. But that's, something from new is the click and collect. So we are working to have parking spaces that you've seen in other retailers, from Office Depot perspective too. So a new prototype, if we're investing in a remodel of a store, we're also looking for those dedicated click and collect spots. Yeah.
So Amazon opened its physical store like a year ago.
Yeah.
What was your reaction when you heard about that, and what do you think that means for the future of Amazon and the future of e-commerce?
Yeah, I really want to see that. I haven't seen the store. I've been interested. I was waiting for them to open one here. I know that they've got a couple of the more of like kind of click and collect stores. I've heard they've got locker stores on a couple campuses. Ohio State I think has one. So I wanted to see one here. But I do feel that it's just the continual change that we're going to see, and e-commerce. Anyone, you today could go and open an e-commerce store. Anyone can open an e-commerce store. To open up a retail store, a physical retail bricks and mortar store, is a whole different story. The capital, the staffing, the marketing, everything that goes into it, it's much more cost prohibitive. And so with it, I'm not surprised at all that Amazon's moving into stores, and I think we're going to see more of it. And it's just another reason why all retailers need to be on their toes. Yeah.
Is Office Depot looking to invest in creating an experience within the store, so not just working with the landlord, but actually internally?
Yes, very much so. So our updated prototype, we just opened our first one in Margate, Florida. As far as the next version of the prototype, it's continually, we call it a prototype, but it continually changes, continually gets updated. And so it's a focus on more of an experience with the selling, with copy print services. But I feel like this is just one iteration. It's just going to continue to expand from there as far as being more focused on that experience. Again, our competitor for right now, our competitor Staples, just like 3 weeks ago announced they've got a partnership with Work Bar, which is a WeWork based out of Boston, where they're going to be doing a downsize of a couple of their locations and putting in a Work Bar co-working space within the store. Makes a lot of sense synergy-wise. Does it apply to all of their stores or all of any future stores? No, but you could see where there could be a really good synergy. And I'm a member of HQ Raleigh. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina now, and just very much an interest in tech, as you can see, and an interest in startups. So I joined HQ so that I didn't, I love people, and I didn't want to be working out of my home office all the time. So I joined HQ Raleigh, and you guys are obviously getting an incredible education experience here. HQ Raleigh for the startup community is doing classes. It's doing startup pitches, contests. It's creating a community. And so Work Bar, I feel like there's a real potential synergy there. So good question. Yes?
With all the options that for social media that we have today, I mean, with Facebook, Twitter, I like Twitter a lot, and you get most of my news from there. But do you see any other sites or applications for CRE that are using that you would recommend besides Twitter?
Yeah, Twitter to me is the best for exchange of ideas, like you were saying. I've been able to reach out and directly talk to someone on Twitter to say, hey, you just tweeted this article about retail standards rising. Did you think about this? And then you'll get a response back. So I love that conversation and the real sharing of ideas. I mentioned the Snapchat thing, and I really do. I believe, like, I've only been using it so short, but the amount of personalization that I feel from the people that I've been following, like, you really get a very good glimpse on their daily life. And I was trying to coordinate with Bucky Beeman. Once you hear the name, you can't forget it. He is very active with Snapchat on CRE, and it's just incredible to watch him. He's a local broker, but has national reach because of his social media. And he just is incredible. Like, this is, to me, talk about open data, thought leadership. When I do a letter of intent, we have non-disclosure agreements, confidentiality agreement. He actually he's working on a local small shop space, a retail space, and within his LOI to the contract to the owner, it said this contract and all negotiations can be shared on Snapchat. I've never seen that before. But it just kind of shows of where we're moving, more open, more, you better believe that owner's going to treat him with respect, knowing that Bucky's got 5,000 followers on Snapchat. If his small tenant isn't getting a fair deal, but the owner signed up for it. He said, yep, allow this to be on Snapchat. So I've been following Bucky all the time, and I had to try to see where this goes. I just thought it was really interesting. And also asked him, I asked him to see if we could kind of do like a live thing, but it didn't work out timing-wise, but I didn't know quite how to coordinate it either. But I know Facebook has the most users. As I said, I don't use it. I know there's a lot of really targeted customer data that they're doing at Facebook that I think really would have. Maybe I'll use it again another day. I got turned off from the time suck of it. You only have so many hours. But LinkedIn, of course, as well. So, any other questions? Yes.
Is there anything else you can tell us about the potential deal with Staples and how that might play out, or just how that's played into your analysis, in particular in your role?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do not know anything. Even my SVP said today, is like, what you read in the New York Post is as much as I know. This really is, at this point, completely in the hands of the judge. And so we hope to hear from him shortly. And they're doing closing arguments on Tuesday. And so we're all, I mean, can you imagine I just left the corporate campus down in Boca? You better believe there's a lot of people there that have much interest in what's happening there. And it's split. I'm very pro the Staples acquisition. I think it's the best thing for the industry, just everything we're talking about with the retail disruption. It's going to allow, as a combined company, to be more efficient. I'm very pro, but there's a lot of people in that company corporate office that are very concerned about it. So from that perspective, there is a concern. But I hope it works out. But I say that too because of, yes, there's a concern of someone's job if the merger acquisition goes through, but there's also a concern of everyone's job on both companies if it doesn't. I mean, there needs to be innovation in proceeding forward. Yeah.
So for the acquisition, has it been kind of, freezing your ability to make new deals, where that's kind of like putting everything on hold?
Yeah.
How has that affected you directly the past few months, trying to do your job on day to day?
Yeah, so we did. So every year we have leases coming up for renewal nonstop. So last year we did do quite a few extensions of leases rather than doing our standard is a 5-year renewal. Typically 10-year initial term, 5-year renewal. And we did quite a few 1-year, 2-year, short-term type extensions. And then there's others. I mentioned the new prototype. There's been a lot of focus over this last year of we can't continue to hold our business. We have to proceed forward. And so we did, for stores that we know are great stores and are going to survive no matter what, we're investing in those and doing the prototype. But yeah, to answer your question, there was quite a few that the best decision for Office Depot and potentially Staples was to just let's wait. And it's actually the best decision in the most part for the landlord as well, to just say, all right, let's figure this out in 2 years. Yeah.
And then a bit of a follow-up. Do you know how many stores each company has, and then do you have an idea how many ballpark is expected to, downsize?
No, I don't.
Just the total number of stores that each company has right now?
I don't, because of the closures. So Staples just closed 50 last year, and Office Depot, OfficeMax combined, we closed 400 stores as of May this year. We're closing 400 in total. This is in 3 years of closures with the Office Depot OfficeMax. We closed 400. So it's just not off the top of my head, yeah, because it's like a constant flux number, and we just had some today as well. So, but it's basically, if the acquisition does go through, we're talking about doubling our portfolio. So, yep. Any other questions? Yes.
Seems like you're very good at developing relationships with other companies do. Could you talk? I mean, it's also just the companies that are next. Could you talk about that relationship? I mean, on the other end of it, why haven't you jumped ship yet? Got someone that you seem to develop a good relationship with.
Very, very good question. No, so Office Depot has been an excellent company for me, and it is a good question. When I start off a presentation saying that a neo-traditional design got me into real estate, I do see my career going that way as far as just the innovation of retail real estate. But clearly, it's a true interest of mine. Office Depot has been an incredible company. I've had, I started off working just Florida, then I got the Southeast, and then as Tim said, I now cover the eastern half of US. So it's just kept me, every day's been a new challenge, and I, started off with an analyst. I now have a team of a director, a senior manager, and 2 managers. Like, I've just continued to have career growth at Office Depot, so that's what's kept me there. But yeah, it's a question mark for me over this next month. I could have a Staples tag next time I see you, or I could be growing Office Depot, or move to, like you're saying, to a relationship of people that I've met through the years. So, but yeah, that's a question mark. It's gonna be a big year for me. Yes.
How often are you on the road if you're covering the entire eastern half of the U.S., and then where do you find yourself traveling to in terms of regions?
Yeah, so I mainly travel in the Southeast. It was a real recent promotion that I got the eastern half, but we've got team members that are throughout the country, and so my team is in Michigan, and where else are they? Michigan, and 2 in Chicago, and then 1 in Florida, and then I'm in North Carolina. And so for the most part, they're traveling to their more northern regions, and I've traveled to the Southeast, from North Carolina. But it's a lot of travel. And it's a matter of balancing that. And but one good thing is I do control my travel, and of course with a young family, I'm able to really plan out my travel in advance and coordinate with Arthur and with our nanny, and we really just are able to plan it out in advance in order to make it all work. Yep. Good. Any last questions? Yes.
So with retail, being redefined in terms of, seems like much lower fixed costs, kind of a very similar parallel move to the just-in-time move of previous years.
Yeah.
Do you think that as somebody coming out of school that it's a good industry to go into do that consolidation, or a bad one?
Oh, I feel it's a very good industry because of the change, especially with, I feel like right now retail is really scrambling to figure out the solutions, figure out what those answers are. And so to be able to come in with new ideas, yes, by all means, you have to have the base. You have to have the base that you're learning here, and then be open to that. That's why I showed the sign of the commercial real estate signs as they are today, just as a pure, just clear example of, I can't stand that whole, well, that's the way we've always done it, So just to be able to come into the retail industry, I think, or commercial real estate of any of our sectors, I think it's an excellent time. And just to learn, whichever company you are with, to learn alongside of everyone that you're working with, but to ask the questions of of why, why aren't we using some of this, the high towers example, or why aren't we using the ROFT? There's a lot of, well, we're so busy, we're really focused on our industry and what we're doing today. This has always worked, and that's great, but I think that you guys coming out with fresh ideas and fresh eyes are able to take a look and really help your company, your new companies, and be even more efficient, and that's what you can really bring.
Julie,
Great.
I have